Okay, so what we're going to do here is give you a brief little introduction to doing mathematics with Google Sheets. I'm using Google Sheets because it seems like at Unli most of us use Google Docs, Google Sheets, etc. Having said that, if you do use Excel, the formulas we're going to do here are pretty much identical in Excel. And if you're using an iPad, you're on your own. Okay, so I've opened up a new spreadsheet. The picture in the corner is just there to give us something to look at as we're working on this. It's got some shortcuts to different mathematical operations you might want to do in Google Sheets. Now the first thing I need to do here is give this a title. So what I'm going to do is use this spreadsheet to calculate the circumference and area of circles with different radii, right? Pretty basic stuff, but it'll give a good introduction to how to use mathematical operations in Google Sheets. So I've labeled 3 columns here, one for the radius of my circle, one for the circumference, one for the area. First thing, when I look at this, I can see that the word circumference here, being a pretty long word, doesn't fit in that column B, and it kind of runs out there. So if I want to actually make column B wide enough that I can read all of that word, I can go to the boundary between column B and column C, put my cursor there and double click, and it'll automatically make it wide enough that you can read all the text. So that looks a bit better. From there, I'm going to do the circumference and area of circles with radius 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 100. So like, I don't know, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, etc. Now, if I had to type in all of this from 1 to 100, it's going to take a very long time, but thankfully, in Google Sheets, I can just do enough of these numbers that the computer can see the pattern. Then I can click and drag over those, and I can move my cursor to the bottom right-hand corner, so it turns from a normal cursor into a cross. And then if I click and drag, it'll repeat that formula all the way down. So I want to do 100, so I guess I go to row number 101. Yep, there we go. So that's repeated that pattern for me. So as long as you give the spreadsheet enough examples of what you're trying to do that it can pick up the pattern, then you can do that, which is called a fill down, and will repeat that pattern as far down as you want. Okay, next thing. So obviously to work out the circumference of a circle, it's 2 times pi times the radius. So I'm going to put a formula in here that will do 2 times pi times the radius for each of the different radius values I've got here from 1 to 100. So when I put in a formula or an equation into Google Sheets, the first thing that needs to happen is the computer needs to know there's a formula coming. So we always start that formula off with an equals. From there, it's 2 times pi times the radius. So I'm going to go 2 times, and then as you can see on the right there, times is an asterisk, so it's 2 times. For pi, I can type in 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. But I can also just do this. I can type the word pi, and then it says number pi, tab to accept. Yep, and I'll press that. And then I do a pi with brackets on the end, and that will do pi for me, right? And that'll do pi to many, many, many more decimal places than I can type it. So it's 2 times pi times the radius, and then the last thing I need to do is actually click on the cell where the radius is. So that it's in cell A2, so I click on cell A2, A2 comes up there, and then I hit enter. Now, if I had to do that for every single cell after that, all the way from 2 down to 100, that would take forever, but I can fill down again. In fact, in this case here, as soon as I type in the first formula, it says, do you want to fill this all the way down? And I go, yep, tick like that, and it'll do that formula all the way down for me from 1 all the way down to 100. Now, let's suppose I didn't do that, or I forgot to do it, or something like that. You can do the same thing manually by just going into that cell, going to the bottom right-hand corner and double-clicking, or you can click and drag all the way down to 100. All right, so you can either go to the bottom right hand corner and double click, or go to the bottom right hand corner and click and drag. Either way works. So now I've got my circumference all the way from 1 to 100, and then I've got to do the same thing for the area. So obviously the area is pi times the radius squared. So again, I start my formula off with an equals, and I type in pi like that, times, and then it's pi times the radius squared. So I'm going to click on the cell where my radius is, A2, and then I need to do squared, or to the power of 2. So when we do powers in this stuff, the little up arrow that appears on your keyboard above the number 6 is how we do powers. So I'm going to press Shift, press the number 6 to get my power symbol, and then press 2 for squared. And then from there, would you like to fill down? Yep, and there we go. So you can see there that we can very quickly set up a simple spreadsheet to work out the radius and circumference and area of different size circles. And it's taken me, 5 minutes, and that's having to explain this. If you know what you're doing, you can literally do this in about 20 seconds. Okay, so it's learning how to use Excel to do mathematics is very, very useful. And that'll probably do us.